And right now at 9, we're tracking your top stories across the islands. A wastewater spill shuts down a shoreline on the Big Island. How many gallons were discharged and what caused it? Also ahead, another text message scam is making the rounds. What officials say you need to look out for. And new guidelines prohibiting cell phone use at DOE schools. When do they go into effect? But first tonight, amid a campaign donation controversy involving Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke. Today, her executive superior, Governor Josh Green, has canceled his trip next week to D.C. for the National Governors Association meeting. If he had left, Luke would have become acting governor. In a statement, Green said he would not go, quote, to ensure steady leadership for our state during this time. Luke responded saying she respects the governor's intentions and will fully cooperate with any investigation and remains focused on transparency and accountability. Attorney General Ann Lopez plans to address the investigation tomorrow. The ongoing donation scandal is raising new questions about a $100 million COVID testing program organized by a key figure in the controversy. Tonight, HNN investigates that city program. As our Daryl Huff reports, some say the testing effort was heroic, but others say it was a greedy waste.
So to become proactive, to at least try to have some defense against the virus.
Toby Solidum organized a plan to have the National Kidney Foundation Hawaii be a city contractor for testing, with subcontractors including his own company and H2O Process Systems, owned by his friend Milton Choi, who was later convicted of bribing Senator Kalani English and Representative Ty Cullen for other favors. The city paid nearly $20 million to bring in a customized testing lab inside a shipping container and start running a rapid test service at the airport, with tests costing $120 each.
And of course, island residents who want to come down here, park, get swabbed, and get your result in three hours.
At the time, the City and Kidney Foundation said they were responding to a lack of rapid testing capability. But Dr. Scott Miskowicz, who led many other testing programs, says by the time the portable lab was delivered, there was plenty of testing available at lower costs, and the city program, which would eventually cost taxpayers and customers over $100 million, was a boondoggle.
It was just greed, and the whole concept of easy money was being floated around, and everybody just said, I'll stick out my hand and just put in as much into my hand as you can as you go and grab the big amount.
The mainland company that stood to gain the most, Contact Diagnostics, filed for bankruptcy last year, calling the program chaotic, and said Hawaii officials urged the company to buy way too much testing supplies, which mostly went unused as vaccinations increased and home testing became available. The company said Solidum overbilled $7 million and left the country. He also caused trouble with his donation to Sylvia Luke, which was recorded by Cullen and cited in a federal sentencing document. He has also allegedly bribed Cullen. The Kidney Foundation later produced a slick video that described the testing program as heroic and featured glowing reviews from politicians and even former Adjutant General Kenneth Hara.
And they organized and they resourced themselves and they brought this capability to Hawaii.
Foundation attorneys offered a link to that video when we asked for comment. Meanwhile, Dr. Miskowicz says the effort was a tremendous waste compared to how local companies like his performed.
I lost $1.2 million doing testing in the state of Hawaii. I did not make money in the state of Hawaii doing testing. We just put ourselves out there to help, and we relied on the insurances to pay.
Milton Choi died in prison. We tried again today to reach Toby Solidum through a company he may have set up in the Philippines, but we didn't get a response. Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.